Hello, and here we are already at episode 2 of Science Fiction Friday. So hopefully by now you know how it goes. If you don't, go back and look for episode 1 and then you'll figure it out from there. I am essentially reading to you, hopefully a whole book, see how it goes, see what support we get. But this is comedy science fiction. It is Dial G for Gravity, the first book in the Brent Bolster Space Detective series. There are 4 books. All available at the moment on Amazon and in Kindle Unlimited, and you can get the paperbacks all over the place. Hopefully, though, I am updating them because I had some nice new covers made, and I am updating the print books and the ebooks and everything. Okay, so just a quick reminder in case you've, because it's been a week, I guess. Previously on Dial G for Gravity, previously on Science Fiction Friday, Brent Bolster was abducted by a Globon. Globons have taken over the Earth in some time in the reasonably near future. And you'll learn more as we go on. But Brent Bolster is a member of the, well, he thought he was a member of the Galactic, I can't even say it now. He's a galactic investigator, he's a private investigator in the mould of the Sam Spade type noir figure. Quite a comical figure, quite a silly figure. And with that, but he's been abducted by Rawl Geeb, who is a Globon. So here we are. So Dial G for Gravity, read by the author Michael Campling, Chapter 2. Globon Space Station, the Gamulon, Earth Orbit. Commander Tsumper glanced over her shoulder, checking that the Fleet Admiral's adjutant, Captain Zarello, wasn't looking in her direction. Then she straightened her uniform and pulled herself up to her full height. I'm not the only female in the damned fleet, she thought, so how come the tunic never fits right? She cleared her throat, and when Zarello looked up, she caught his eye. Excuse me, Captain, but do you think the Fleet Admiral... Oh, God, already I've made a mistake. She cleared her throat, and when Zarello looked up, she caught his eye. Excuse me, Captain, but do you think the Fleet Admiral will be long? Zarello frowned. Are we keeping you from something, Commander? Tsumper's lips were suddenly dry. No, of course not. I stand ready to serve the Admiral in any way that he might demand. Yes, quite. Zarello's expression softened. But I wouldn't say those exact words to the old man if I were you. No sense tempting Providence, if you know what I mean. Tsumper blinked. If you're trying to intimidate me, Captain, I must object. There is no mission too taxing for me to undertake. I am prepared to lay down my life in the service of the Globon government. It wasn't your life I was worried about, Zarello said. He looked her up and down, then turned his attention back to his workstation. I'm sure I'll be here soon, and if I haven't finished these figures... He broke off suddenly, his ear cocked. Fleck! Here he comes! Zarello jumped to his feet, snapping to attention, his arm whipping toward his chest in a salute. And at the same moment, the door slid open, and Fleet Admiral Squirnshaw strode in, his eyes roving across the room from beneath his bristly eyebrows. Ugh, Tsumper thought, disgusting. By nature, Globons were smooth-skinned, but ever since they'd arrived in Earth orbit, some senior officers had adorned their faces with follicular implants. The members of the Earth Upgrade Committee were especially keen on the trend, and during her last attendance at one of their meetings, Tsumper had been amazed at the bizarre collection of beards and moustaches on display. Amazed, and not a little nauseated. Now the Fleet Admiral was waggling his obscene, bushy eyebrows at her, and with a start, she realised she'd been too shocked to salute. She raised her arm, clenching her fist and thumping it against her chest with such force that a cough rose in her throat, and she let out a muffled wheeze. Fleet Admiral, Tsumper said hurriedly, I am humbled to be called before you. Please be assured that I am ready to serve you in... She broke off as she caught Zarello grinning at her, but then she realised that her sentence hadn't made sense, and added, to serve you in due course, and in line with the goals and the noble aspirations of the Globon government. Squirnshaw let out a sigh, whispering something under his breath that sounded suspiciously... Oh, goodness me. That's hard to say. Squirnshall let out a sigh, whispering something under his breath that sounded suspiciously like, "Not another bloody zealot." Then he pointed to his office door and said, "Inside, now." He swept past her, and Sumper followed in his wake, wrinkling her nose. What was that smell? Had the Fleet Admiral taken to using human cleaning products? Surely not. "Remain standing," Squirnshall said as he took his seat behind the vast alloy desk. Opening a drawer, he produced a slim tablet computer and ran his fingers over the screen before holding it up, the screen facing Sumper. "Know what this is?" Sumper craned her neck forward, painfully aware of the clicking made by her cervical vertebrae. She frowned. "An annual quota report." She met Squirnshall's gaze. "At least, that's what it looks like at first glance, but—" She took a breath, marshalling her courage. She had a thorough understanding of the principles of honesty and integrity, but when it came to pointing out the errors of her commanding officers, she'd found it best if those particular principles were shifted discreetly out the way until her compulsion to speak her mind had passed. And so far, it had worked. She was the highest-ranking female officer in the Globon Expeditionary Fleet, and she wasn't about to throw that achievement away any time soon, especially not over something as piffling as this administrative error. Yes, the quota report was a mess, but until she was absolutely sure that no blame could be attached to her, she'd keep quiet and wait to see what Squirnshall had on his mind. "Yes, an annual quota report. That is my first impression." "Come on," Squirnshall grumbled, waving the tablet in front of her eyes. "You can do better than that. You're supposed to be some sort of whiz kid. That's what I was told. Hot Stuff is our commander, Sumper. Knows how to run things, how to get things done." "Fleet Admiral, your faith in me is—" Squirnshall cut her short. "Tell me exactly what is wrong with this report, and then we'll see what you're made of. We'll see if you're up to the task I have in mind." "Task?" "Yes." Squirnshall gave her a meaningful look. "An important task, completion of which may well confer certain advantages on the lucky officer in charge. Promotion, perhaps." Sumper forced a smile. Was Squirnshall on the level, or was this a giant trap being laid before her feet? There was some in the fleet who'd love to see her go down in flames, and if she let her ambition overreach her abilities, it would be a short trip to the ultimate humiliation, exile on the planet below. I should make an excuse and leave, she decided. No sense in getting in over my head. "Caution can be an asset in an officer," Squirnshall went on, offering her the tablet, "but it can also be a crutch. Perhaps you're not ready for this task after all. What a pity. I was just thinking that the next logical step in your career would be the command of your own vessel. Captain Sumper, it has a certain ring to it, does it not?" In one motion, Sumper snatched up the tablet and held it close to her eyes. "Firstly, the totals from each report only appear to reconcile, but the cross-reference codes are simply incorrect. Now, if this were only an isolated instance, then I might suggest a simple administrative error. But those adjustments have been manually inserted, and that points to a deliberate and systematic falsification of the figures. This report is fraudulent and requires immediate investigation." "And why would someone file a fraudulent report, do you think?" "Hard to say for sure," Sumper began. "To be certain, someone would need to trace back through all the logs and rebuild the records from the raw data." Squirnshall waved his hand in the air, encouraging her to go on. "Just for the sake of argument, put forward a possible motive. Hypothesize." Sumper pursed her lips. "Someone covering their tracks? Perhaps an officer has been lax in his record keeping? All sampling missions should be logged and recorded, date of mission, number of humans sampled, biometric data obtained, tracking codes, and finally the date on which the samples are returned to Earth. It should all be reconciled against the quotas, but if the samples weren't logged correctly when they came in, the returns department would have picked up on the error. So I suggest that someone has tried to cover up their incompetence by falsifying the data before the return was made." Good try, Squirnshaw said, but it doesn't hang together. The returns department wouldn't be so easily fooled. For each case, they'd see a human in front of them, and no amount of tampering with the data would make them ignore the evidence of their eyes. But that's just it, Tsumpa said, her smile widening as the full implication of her discovery became clear. These people aren't being returned. They're being recategorized. She held out the tablet, pointing to a column of data. Here, this code means miscellaneous livestock, and this one stands for mammal of unknown species and or origin. We get a lot of those from Australia. There's another code here, domesticated vertebrate of no known purpose. She beamed. On Earth, I believe they call them cats, though we don't really know what that means. Squirnshaw sat back, his bizarre eyebrows creeping up his brow as though attempting to escape. You sure about this? There are thousands of sample codes. You can't know them all. No, Tsumpa admitted. There are a few in the microbial category that I have trouble with, but as for the rest, well, it was a stretch to learn the 500 new categories brought in by the Earth Upgrade Committee last month, but I'd say I know them pretty well. She shrugged. It's a hobby. Is it? Squirnshaw shook his head. Things have certainly changed since I was a young commander. The only codes I ever learned were the access keys to the Rear Admiral's liquor store. He let out a bark of laughter. Old Hagendorf, what a blowhard. I wonder whatever happened to him. Tsumpa glanced down at her shoes. Rear Admiral Hagendorf was court-martialed, sir. He was found guilty of bringing the Globon government into disrepute, stripped of his rank and exiled to Camelon 3. Oh, that's a damn shame. Yes, he was a friend of my father. The Rear Admiral was a great Globon in his time, but it seems he'd become addicted to Brahmian liquor. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Oh, very sad. Squirnshaw ran his hands over his desk's smooth surface. Of course, what I was saying a moment earlier about the access codes, that was merely a mild exaggeration for the sake of an anecdote. You know, banter. No need to take it literally. Yes, Admiral, I understand. Certainly not the kind of remark that I'd like to hear repeated. He flashed Tsumpa a shark-like smile. I'd take that kind of thing personally if I were ever to hear of it happening, and I would hear about it. Believe me. Tsumpa nodded. Understood. Good. Squirnshaw clapped his hands together and jumped to his feet. So, are you ready to take on your new mission, Commander? Mission, Admiral? Sorry, but I'm not... what mission exactly would that be? To solve the mystery, of course, Squirnshaw said, beaming. To find out what's happened to all the missing samples and bring the perpetrator to justice. I'm convinced that you're the right officer for the job. That's very flattering, sir, but... I am right, aren't I? You will take on the job, won't you? Tsumpa felt the blood drain from her cheeks. Yes, Admiral. It goes without saying. It would be my pleasure and honour. That's what I thought. Squirnshaw gestured toward the door. I'll have all the relevant data transmitted to your account. Deal with this promptly, Commander, but keep this mission just between ourselves. No one else is to know anything about it. No one. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Tsumpa saluted. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down. The Fleet Admiral grinned. You're damned right you won't, because if you do, there won't be much left of you to exile. But we'll manage somehow, even if we have to stitch you back together first. He chuckled as though amused at his own turn of phrase. You can go now, Tsumpa. I look forward to receiving your preliminary findings by... Let's see, I have dinner on Earth at 7, but there's golf with some chaps from the UN in the afternoon. That won't take long. I expect they'll let me win, as usual. So how about you'll have that report on my desk by 3? 3? Tsumpa asked, her voice wavering. Is that station time? No, Earth time, UTC. Squirnshaw shook his head. The senior officer stopped using station time ages ago. Wake up, Tsumpa. If you're going to be a captain, you'll need to up your game. And that means socially too. No more nights at home memorising the handbook. Yes, sir. I mean, no, sir. Sumper tugged at the lower edge of her tunic, which had chosen this moment to cling uncomfortably to her skin. I'd better get to it. Yes, you are dismissed. Sumper turned smartly on her heel and marched out, striding past the Admiral's adjutant without a glance. Strictly speaking, she should have acknowledged him with at least a polite nod, but military etiquette was the last thing on her mind, and just for once, the formalities could take a hike. She had bigger problems to deal with, and if she didn't complete this mission correctly, she may never need to salute again. Indeed, she may not be able to. She may not be able to do anything much at all. There we go. It's the end of chapter 2. So I hope you enjoyed it. I made a few gaffes, as I always seem to in these things. And I sometimes wish I'd written things so they would be easier to read aloud. Like saying Fleet Admiral Squirnshall. It's quite a mouthful on its own. Okay, so yeah, that's one of the other sort of plot lines is happening with the Globons. The next chapter is another plot line because it is another whole different alien race. So I have several sort of alien races in this sci-fi story because it's kind of, it melds together the sort of PI noir type stuff, science fiction, futuristic science fiction, and space opera type things that I think would appeal to fans of Star Trek. And, some of it's slapstick down to sort of Red Dwarf level and some of it's cleverer, perhaps for fans of things like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and so on, which some, book that I loved. So, and a play, of course, not so keen on the film, but, the original play's interesting to listen to. And the books my introduction to Douglas Adams was from the novel form of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Okay. So, wherever you're watching or listening, if you're on YouTube or Substack or you're listening on any kind of podcast platform, thank you very much for listening. If you're watching, thank you very much for watching. Wherever you are, subscribing, liking, sharing, all that good stuff. Really helpful, shows a bit of support, and I will keep going with these little performances. And they may be rough around the edges, but, keep it real. And it's I don't really practice or anything before, so it's kind of a surprise to me when I see what's coming next, because I wrote these books years ago. And soon to be out with nice new covers as well. Some of them are sort of out there already, but yeah, that will happen. And a lot of people who read these, especially if they're into sci-fi, just into kind of comedy stuff, say they have a laugh with them and they enjoy it, and there's kind of, drink come out of your nose kind of moments in there. So I think they're fun. So hope you would think they're fun too and think they're worth checking out. If you want to read along or anything, you can look for the ebook on Amazon or in Kindle Unlimited, and or in your public library. You can request the ebook from your public library service. I hope it's all up to date there. It's something I'm working on at the moment. And then the paperback can be got from various sources. Again, that's something I'm working on at the moment. A lot of moving parts, this business, but or you can just listen. You can just subscribe to the podcast or the videos or the YouTube channel or whatever. And listen, if you want to see the other readings, a good place to do that is author Michael Campling, that's all one word, .substack.com. And you'll see the various themes there. We've got Science Fiction Friday, we've got Mystery Fiction Monday, Time Travel Fiction Tuesday, and Thriller Fiction Thursday. So there are 4 episodes in the week, which is ambitious, I know, but I hope it's worthwhile. And you can follow each of those individually on Substack. So 1, all, 2, whatever you want to do. And there's also general stuff on there, like nice photos and stuff. So there's actually kind of 5 overall things. There's my general author stuff, and then there's the four reading sets, which are in separate sections, and they can be sent to you then by, if you subscribe, you'll get an email when the new one lands, and you won't miss it. Or you can subscribe on YouTube or wherever. Okay, well, I hope that was fun for you. Look after yourselves. Take care. Happy reading, and I'll see you again next week for the next inciting installment of Dial G for Gravity. Maybe I should do the whole thing like that. I would love to, but I don't think I can possibly keep the accent up all the way through a whole chapter. All right, bye for now. Take care.